Welcome to the fourth and final review of the evening. Up this time is Neptunia Sisters versus Sisters. Right, so Neptunia Sisters versus Sisters is the latest in the long-running Hyperdimension Neptunia franchise. Now, if I'm recalling correctly, this is not our overall first rodeo with Neptunia, but the last game we covered was a while ago. I honestly don't remember which one of those that we, as in, I think the last one was reviewed by Twilight, I know it wasn't me.
Something like that. I think I've done one of the ones that's like related to this, but I don't remember which.
That could be the case. Yeah. There's a lot of Neptunia games out there, and in spite of our history with Idea Factory and Compile Heart, we haven't done many of them. That being said, in terms of penetrability, this one is actually fairly penetrable. In the notions of things like lore and backstory, and do you need to know previous knowledge to understand what the fuck's going on here?
Well, there are like 15 Neptunia games. I'm mostly exaggerating, but it feels like we're at that number.
Right. But I'm like, my point is, this isn't one of those installments that's, predicated on callbacks and references and built upon the rich history of the Neptunia franchise. You can go in with fairly little knowledge about what's going on here and still get what's going on here.
This one was kind of supposed to be the soft reboot. Like, there's still wink and a nod for longtime fans, but mostly done enough that new people can get into the franchise.
Well, from what I understand, one of the distinctions about this one is the cast, because one of it's called Neptunia, but that's really an artifact title, because you don't actually play as Neptunia. That Neptunia, for those who don't know, is the kind of the main character of this franchise. She's the Dreamcast / Sega analog.
I think she's specifically the Sega Neptune, which is not the Dreamcast, but is close.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't also never actually existed. So, but yes, it looks like here your primary character is Nepgear, who is A, her little sister, and I believe B, the Game Gear equivalent that would have happened for the Neptune if it happened.
Potentially. If I'm remembering correctly, I think the Neptune was actually the combo system for the 32X and Genesis.
That might be.
Like I said, this isn't that closely related to actual game consoles and so on and so forth, even though you get goofy shit like the world is called Game Industry.
Get it? Ha ha. Ha 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 ha.
Because I've met writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
All right, Garth Marenghi. But anyway, and speaking of thinly veiled allegories, this has it in spades, because this is bringing the hottest conversations of 2009 and 2010 to the forefront. as in, what's going on here in the metatextual sense. In the textual sense, you've got the world of game industry being invaded by, well, let's say mysterious invaders. And the entire world, like the entire known world, let's say, is in chaos. You've got the PC continent. Yes, that's what they came up in terms of the PC. That just flat out disappears. The entire continent just vanishes. Poof. And
because didn't you know that PCs are dead?
I guess. And the four nations of game industry are being invaded by monsters, and the goddess candidates are either disappeared or, let's say, incapacitated, or something to that. It depends on the situation. Let us say. Point is, the world's gone to shit, and the masses have to stay indoors for their own safety. So they turn to this mysterious new device called the R phone for comfort and support and communication.
Jesus Christ.
You may also have a bit of the pandemic narrative in this.
Yeah.
This game just came out in January.
Yeah, unlike the other ones, which were basically re-releases of Xbox 360 games.
PlayStation 3, I think.
That era.
Yeah. But yeah, this is, but my point is, in the metatextual sense, this is smartphones versus game consoles. And like I said, boy, doesn't that sound like a lot of conversations I was having, about 10 plus years ago, when certain people who should have known better were actually claiming that smartphones were going to literally eliminate all other forms of gaming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still waiting for that.
Yeah, that was a thing that people were seriously suggesting. And I had to go, and I kept telling, no. First of all, the power's not there. I'm like, no, your iPhone isn't as powerful as an Xbox 360. Sure, these days, sure. But, we're talking 2009, 2010.
Yeah. Your iPhone could barely do PS2 quality, and your battery would be lasting maybe 2 hours.
But I had to keep telling him about form factor and default development. It's like, especially since this was the era of smartphone gaming when we were seeing a lot of console ports, very badly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, it doesn't matter if you can put a Super NES game on a phone. That doesn't mean it's the ideal way to play these kind of games. And I think the more smartphone gaming has gone on and matured and all that, the world has proven my point of view correct. In that, yes, smartphone gaming is by volume and numbers the most popular form of gaming, simply because, smartphones, even back in, turn of the last decade, were much more ubiquitous.
Even a mid-range phone today could probably have the same compute power of a PS3 at minimum.
Yeah, but it's not about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the fact that first of all, your default control scheme is a touchscreen, and touchscreens, were ushered in order to simplify commands in the phone space.
However, for the purposes of a game, you will note that one of the important factors of a touchscreen is that it is, in fact, the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I kept having to tell people this, and they didn't get it because they were like, well, you can hook up a Bluetooth controller to your phone, and I'm like,
you can do that, but you can't assume people will do that.
Well, the problem is also they don't have anything like X input for Windows. So there's no standardization with that.
More to the point, that takes effort.
Yeah.
That's not the default. You build towards the default. Like they're
This is why they made almost nothing for the Nintendo DSi or the new Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah. Like they're probably, just by sheer amount of games that exist on smartphones, a plethora of games that were controller first, but that wasn't the default. And even now, shit like Apex Legends and Genshin Impact and Fortnite on mobile, and so on and so forth. They are played with touchscreens much more than any other input device. They're not especially good at that, but once again, everyone has a touchscreen. No, compared to having thumbsticks or other alternate inputs.
Yeah, not everybody can have a gamer phone that comes with a joystick and touchpad thing, or joystick and buttons either bolted on or packed in as an accessory.
But for the purposes of this game, let us say, the goddesses and their way of life are under threat from the mysterious forces behind the R phone. And that actually does come into play in the gameplay via shares. It's their stand-in for market share, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Even though,
for a point of interest, the Japanese word for apple starts with an R.
Good to know. I will say what is missing from this conversation is Android.
Yeah.
Because, they call them R phones. Which obviously iPhones. Like, but, anyway, there's this share meter. Not exactly sure how that worked. I think it's not just like story progress, but going on optional quests and such does change the balance. And it's like, depending on how many shares you have or your opposition has, the story will change. I only played this for about 14 hours. I was fairly significant way into the third chapter / area. The Lean Box Nation, or the last station. Yeah. Lean Box was chapter 2. Sorry.
I wonder what those are references to, rolls eyes.
Yeah. And ultimate point that does play a factor, but I couldn't tell you how big of a factor. This is the problem with having basically a week to review an RPG. RPGs are long, and
compile hard RPGs sometimes exceptionally so.
I guess I'll be honest, I've never I think this may be one of the further ones I've gotten into. My point is, long RPGs are long, and this is one of them. I will say on the upside, this is probably the best Idea Factory International game I've played.
This is the action game one, right?
Yes, mostly. I suppose I should quantify that because it does say hack and slash, and it is real time, as opposed to we've covered a plethora of Idea Factory RPGs on the program, and
that weird pseudo turn-based style.
Yeah, or they're like your movement phase is real time, but the actual turn, you still take turns.
Yeah, it's weird.
System. This one I would call mostly real time. Now that's a strange term, but bear with me. It's because your attacks are grafted onto this combo system. Like every attack you do also unleashes an elemental, or some every attack has a something going on with it. Like your first attack might be a wind tornado, and then you might unleash a flame blitz or something like that with your next attack. Up to 4. That makes a combo. But here's the thing. These combos actually have to play out. So it still ends up being a bit turn-based. It's more, you're actually waiting for the combo inputs to actually go through. So it's not as seamless and smooth as, say, Kingdom Hearts in its real-time combat. Like, it's actually
the way you're describing it almost sounds like Project Cross Zones, maybe.
I never played that, so.
Aren't the Cross Zone games like strategy RPGs where instead of being just menu-based battles, you go into like a mini fighting game thing almost?
Kinda. Where different command inputs do different attacks, and you pretty much have a set amount of time.
Yeah, this game isn't that deep. There are levels of combat, power-wise, but that's meter-driven. That is to say, you got your basic attacks, and then you got your next level, which you've got a meter that builds up, and you hit like the Y button or later the up or down direction on the left thumbstick and Y to unleash a more powerful attack. And then there's the third tier, which is done by hitting the L&R triggers, because a certain amount of combat builds up this other meter, and you will unleash like an EX attack or something like that. And then if you forgo that and have the meter fill all the way, that actually unlocks your actual goddess form. Which is you. Yeah. which means you can do much more damage and shit for a limited amount of time. So there's actually a lot going on here. You probably won't use it 95% of the time. Like another facet here is like this game has a bunch of different kinds of combos that I didn't really bother learning because it's the lofty ambitions of an RPG versus the sobering reality. And that is to say, most of the combat's fucking brain dead. Like most of the regular combat is really easy and dumb. The really tactical shit is the boss encounters. That's how it's gone for pretty much every RPG I've ever played. Like, even like when we're getting to the PlayStation 2 age, and the combat systems were getting really intricate and complicated. It's like still the basic battles are basic, or you just need to know the specific elemental weakness, something like that. It's like you're not actually putting a lot of your tactics to the test unless it's a boss encounter. That's where your real, that's where those subsystems will really sing. And it's the same thing here, if I'm being honest. Yeah. And you have a party of 3, or at least up to 3. And I'd say the thing you're going to be doing most is chain combos. So how that works is, well, you've got the 4 attacks, and then while you're going through the combo, you are encouraged to switch a character and get their combo going, and keeping the hit counter going up. Not actually sure what that's
like Project X Zone.
Yeah.
Or at least like Namco Cross Capcom, which is based on.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that did, if I'm being honest. Just the gaming really encouraged you to do that. Sometimes stopping the action to highlight, hit the right bumper or the left bumper to switch to this character and get their combo going. And let me see here. So out of battle, I will say the cutscenes and the conversations are very much in line with a lot of pretty much every other Compile Heart Idea Factory joint we've covered on the show. That is long stretches of conversation between the characters, going on for like 10, 15 minutes maybe. And it's just conversation sometimes. And like I said, we've been seeing that since like Mugen Souls. And it's the case here as well. Thankfully, this game auto-saves during the conversations. Like when it has a change in scenery or something like that, or transition, it will auto-save. So if you have to quit and do something, or the game crashes, whatever, it'll start in the middle of that scenario, not at the beginning, which is supremely fucking helpful. Because, like I said, these things go on for a while and can get a bit tedious. Also, another prominent feature is Chirper, the Chirper social network. No price to figure out what this is aping. Though I will.
Are the little birds a different color, or are they still blue?
It's still blue. Or at least the logo is still blue. Like I said, the veneers are very thin in this game. Though I will say that the Chirper social networks probably got better functionality going on now than the actual Twitter does. And the main use of Chirper is to gather the side quests. In that capacity, it acts more like Craigslist, if I'm being honest. Because, it's got the main chat window thingy, and then, it's got the quests menu, and, it's like, I want item X, and I'll give you item Y, or you got to find person Z in order to get item W. That kind of thing. Also, you get tokens that, once again, I did not figure out what did. That might have been a thing in the future. Once again, that's kind of the problem with not so much reviewing an RPG, but reviewing an Idea Factory compile hard RPG, because they tend to have a lot of systems. It's not one of the absurd ones where it's just, it's chapter 3. We're still doing tutorials. We're still unlocking new systems. This is fucking ridiculous, and I will never use this. Please stop.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, another aspect is the fashion. It's like there's an armor component, but the accessories substrata is less concerned about protection and more about, being actual accessories. You can accessorize your look. You get things like hats and ribbons and animal ears, stuff like that. There, eye patches, weird head things like the camera head or the patrol head, large camera and a large siren. And also worth noting, not every combination works out very well. Maybe because of sometimes the default either headgear or hair the character has. So, like I said, there's a lot of systems here. But more often than not, it either ends up being unused or redundant or just plain old fluff. And I think that's about the meat and bones of the combat and the systems that are relevant. And, as far as how it works as a game, it's it's a solid RPG. Solid, not spectacular. Also worth noting, I'm not sure if this is the first Idea Factory compile heart game to use it, but they moved off of their custom engine that they were using back in, let's say, PlayStation 3 times. And I'm like, I want to say that the Mary Skelter games were built on Unity, but this Hyperdimension Neptunia game is built on Unity. The visual style is a bit lopsided. That is to say, there are areas that look pretty sparse and, they look like they belong on the PlayStation 3. While other areas look rather impressive and do look a lot more modern. And like the Grassfield area has actual topography going on, and so on and so forth. Still a linear path, but that was fine. Like, non-linearity is overrated.
The only important non-linear thing is being able to go back if you miss something.
Yeah, and you can do that. And the music is, it's fine. As you expected, it's fairly light and bubbly in tone most of the time. It's like, I wouldn't call it on the level of, say, a Square Enix JRPG in terms of music, but it gets the job done. And I think, to wit, they understood that because there is no option to buy the soundtrack here. And in terms of pricing, well, this is a full, this is full price. Or actually, no, this is or at least the PC version is not budget price, but also not full price. I know there are games that are clocking in at $70, but those are the high-end AAA titles of today. This game is clocking in at $50 normal, and the deluxe edition is $70. That's still below AAA prices, but that's still higher than budget. Like, budget price is officially recognized at like $30 to $40. So the question is this worth $50? That's a bit of a hard one to answer, if I'm being honest. As a pure RPG, I'd say yes. I think it's just more the tone, and this is very moe. And also it's part of a long-running series. I really think that the art style might be the biggest stumbling block. Like, it's something that you're either going to like or you're going to hate. Especially this installment, because you're playing as the Emotos. The little sisters of all of the main characters of this franchise. So it's got that extra cute veneer on it. Yeah. So, thankfully it doesn't get creepy about it. Which this kind of thing can do. At least from my play session. Let's see. Any other questions, comments, or concerns over Neptunia Sisters versus Sisters?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add for this one.
All right, then. So, thusly, we finally conclude another Fragments of Silicon Reviews installment. So, the week ahead. So, coming up on Wednesday, February 15th, we'll be having Jin of Varenus on the program. I think we've got all of our timing issues sorted out. So, we'll actually be able to talk about Law Mage Academy this Wednesday. Was quite emphatic about that. And on Friday, February 17th, we'll be having Zoo Ethisham of Berserk Boy Games on the program. So yes, we do have a Friday show. And you have a new installment of Moonhawk Studios Presents happening on Wednesday. So look for all that. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.